Hi, welcome back to MOAB, Making Music on a Budget. This is actually the second time I'm recording this very video. The first time the sound was messed up and I couldn't use it. Well, to be forced to do it again might make my ramblings more coherent. Hi, welcome back to Making Music on a Budget. This is the fourth and final installment of our Crafting a Song series using all parts of the buffalo. Why is it called that? If we are making music, we should use everything at our disposal to complete the song. So in the first three parts, we took a Garageband demo with artificial musicians and a very cheesy sound and gradually replaced everything with real musicians. We used all parts of the buffalo, sometimes recording directly into the built-in iPad microphone. On another occasion, we used the virtual percussion track that Garageband spat out to inspire the real percussionist that was playing on the song and didn't quite know what to do. So in this final part of the series, we're going to complete the song, we're going to look at the making of the video, and I'm going to go on a rant on the use of AI. Talking about completing the song, we now have all the individual tracks ready, we have cut everything, and now we get to the mastering stage. But rather than me explaining how exactly we did it, which I'm honestly speaking not equipped to do, I want to give you an analogy why it is needed to do all of that. Sometimes I struggle to explain the different steps to people who are not musicians. Let me try out an analogy I just recently came up with. I did try to test it on my wife, but her eyes glazed over midway through. So please be my guinea pigs, mystery people of the internet, and let's see whether you can understand. In my mind, creating a song from start to finish is like building a house, right? So you lay the foundation by writing the song, deciding on the chords, what melody lines are we hearing. The next thing is to put up the walls, which would mean what parts of the song come where, how often is the chorus repeated, do we have a solo, and so on and so forth. So as the next stage, we're going to put in an inner layout into your structure, meaning dry walls and which room goes where, by arranging the song. What instruments are we going to use? Who is going to play what? For example, if we have certain chords, which instrument is going to play what part of this chord? Very often you will have the bass guitar playing the root note, then you might have the guitar or piano, whatever you have, or keyboards playing, the upper parts of a chord. And then you might have horns or background singers or sometimes other keyboard tracks that could even go into extended chords or could, add some additional chords on top of that. So all of this is there to determine whether your song will sound airy and light or whether you want more of a wall of sound as in the 60s or in metal music. So now you have recorded all the instrumental tracks. Following my analogy, you're going to put in the wiring and pipes into your house, which means that you're going to go into the editing stage. Why do we need to edit? I used to think that if we have great material, we could just let it play in parallel, but that's not how it works, because there can be too much of a good thing. So editing and cutting wisely will really determine the sound of your song. It's not just what kind of a melody you have, but it's also how dense it feels or how logical it feels when you're listening to it. Especially when it comes to things like which hook is played where or which riff is played where or which function of each part is carried on whose shoulders. Next up is the mixing stage, which in my mind is like putting floorboards and paneling and paint onto your inner and outer structure, onto your walls and floors. Mixing, at least in my mind, means that the notes that are played are mostly set, but now you're looking at the balance between the individual instruments, trying to create a cohesive whole. In order to achieve that, we need to look at the acoustic footprint of each individual instrument and to see how we can make it fit into the soundscape of the whole song. Sometimes you might have a great guitar track, but in terms of frequencies, it really encroaches onto the piano and onto the bass guitar. So you need to use the equalizer to cut out a lot of stuff to keep it slim and, make it pop more and not get mushy, when you play the whole song. We might think we're done, but we still have to master the whole thing. So mastering, as I understand it, means we're taking the final stereo track and we're looking at all the parts and the overall flow of the song taking specific frequencies and tweaking them to make, the song less aggressive in this part or more punchy in this part. In this case, taking the house and putting up the roof and sealing the outside, basically. So to me, it's like magic, right? I can't do it. That's why I highly recommend surrounding yourself with specialists that are much smarter than you are, when it comes to playing their instrument or to sound engineering, mixing and mastering. So this actually brings me to the use of AI in music. And for me, it's like cheating, but it's not so much cheating anyone, it's cheating yourself. Why do I say that? Because you are simply not really involved in the creation. For me, it's like telling a robot to take a hike in your stead. Even if this robot with his little robot legs, covers the distance, crossing mountain ranges, it won't be you who has the distance under their belt, right? I don't even want to go into the debate whether AI can create anything original. If you sit on a meadow and you listen to the bird song, trying to come up with some interesting ideas, or if you're sitting at a train track, listening for groove ideas, which really works, all of this can inspire you and it can kickstart your imagination and creativity. So for me, it's like sitting next to a very skilled musician. And even if you prompt them into, creating something, telling them some of your ideas, if they create a great riff or a great chord progression, it won't be you who has done it. Nobody would say you created it, they created it, right? So AI for me is like a dead end, and it's cheating yourself. So back to finishing the song. Let me go on yet another final tangent about finishing the song. I was actually on my way in the car to the studio of the friend I'm mixing with. As everything is content in this social media age, I did record a short clip saying, I'm so excited, and it's almost like going to a birthday party where you're opening your present. And here I was, bathed in this golden sunlight of a hopeful spring. And then when I listened back to the actual first mix, it was terrible. And I did make a video about that with 5 tips to help you finish your songs and, to help you really use your creativity. I called it 90% is closer to 0 than to 100. On the final stretch, it can really sound terrible, and everything seems to fall apart and you seem to be left with nothing after all this hard work. Okay, let's very quickly go into the creation of the video. If you have followed any of my other videos, you might have recognized that some of my ideas tend to be a bit convoluted. In this case, I was just thinking about the theme for a music video, for this song. And I was just taking a walk, looking at my feet, and I thought, this song actually is called One Step at a Time. So why don't I just ask people and friends from all over the world to send me short clips filming themselves, walking, filming their feet, and then panning up to show us where they are. So I got a lot of clips from Japan and Syria and Austria and Philippines and from all over the world. And I just cut them together in a very DIY way, just portrait orientation. I like it and it's quite popular on YouTube, but I do have to mention the review of a friend of mine's son who said, this is the most amateurish and awkward thing I've ever seen. But I think, I welcome this review, because what is art for if not to elicit strong emotion, right? So there you have it. In this Crafting a Song series, we went from inception, songwriting, arranging, recording, editing, mixing and mastering to a complete song. I have to say I'm quite pleased with the outcome, especially comparing it to the means, at our disposal. Of course, the next one is going to get better and so on and so forth, but it's just another step on my creative journey. This is why I started this channel. I want you to find your own way around making music on a budget. One last thing. The Rhodes Mk II 54 keys is back from full restoration and it sounds great. It's not mine, it's just on loan, but I did cut a very short video where I'm just futzing around on it without any effects, just compressor. I recommend that because I think it sounds great. Okay, this is all the time we have for today. I am going to see you next time when we're going to make some more music on a budget. MOAB! Gesundheit!